What area is about to go boom? That's exactly what this episode is about. And the good news is, with modern data and statistics available, this is entirely predictable. You can buy into markets that are about to go boom if you follow specific data sets. And that's what we're going to go through today. What exactly to look for to buy into a market that is about to rise or has just begun rising, so you can get short-term capital growth and benefit from the capital appreciation that starts with an area that's gonna go boom. That's the point of this episode. We're gonna go through a number of data metrics. Let's just touch on them really, really quickly to begin. So we have inventory levels, we have days on market, vendor discounting, vacancy rates, rental price growth, and supply measures, and also a concept called the ripple effect that we'll talk through in this episode. And we're going to go through and tell you one area that we're seeing all of our buyers agent clients and all of our smart, savvy property investors go and purchase. They are our eyes and ears on the ground, and we are just the lucky people that help facilitate their own dreams and be part of their process. And we get asked a lot, what are other people doing? So we are going to share that because we have a little bit of insight into that. And we've done a little bit of digging behind why people are buying this particular area. And it ticks all of the boxes that we're about to use. So we're going to run through all the reasons why an area is about to go boom, what you need to look for, and give you a live example. That's pretty exciting. What do you think?
Yeah, it is. I'm keen to run through this. And if you've just listened to the previous episode where we ran through a little bit more of the pre-boom areas and more the macro factors, this is now starting to get down to the micro. How is the individual market looking on the ground? Because that gives you a feel for what's about to kick off, as opposed to, what's got a good 3-year projection.
Two things I want to add to this. When you buy in a market that is about to go boom, it is far more predictable than buying an early adopter market. That is good news, music to your ears, if you want to do the work and follow some of these data metrics, because we have history. We have a lot of correlation. We've got a lot of data to show that these metrics are what drives markets to do well. And also it makes a lot of sense when you unpack it all, which we're going to do, makes a lot of sense. Second thing I want to add, this is all about finding demand versus supply imbalances right now that cannot be fixed quickly. So when demand is high and supply can't respond, that is where price growth is. It often appears in rental markets first and then feeds through to the actual price market. But what you are looking for, it is economics 101. Demand higher than supply pushes up prices. That is what we're looking for, and that's what these data sets are all showing or are going to lead to. They are all about demand and supply and showcase demand being really high while supply simply cannot respond quickly enough. That's where price growth is. Let's go through it.
Yeah, so do you want to reveal what our example is?
No. I want people to keep watching.
All right.
Sorry, everyone. That's like a little social media secret apparently that you got to do. So yeah, hit fast forward if you need to, but let's go through some of these specific items. Let's start with inventory levels. Yeah. I like this word. I had to Google what they meant by this. Inventory
stock levels. Yeah. So yeah, and like just to put it simply, you just want to gauge how many properties are for sale. If no properties are for sale, that's an indication that there's, pre-boom conditions there. If everyone's selling up and there's a whole bunch of listings, and again, we're probably looking at a relative measurement. So, if relative to a year ago, there's a lot less listings, that's good. If relative to a year ago, there's, double the listings, then that's not looking so good.
This is why he is pretty much the smartest guy I know, because I have done a little bit of the precursor for this particular podcast, doing all the research, running through all the analysis, and I've just been like, Curtis, come sit next to me and talk through it. And I know this guy's going to be able to run it off on top of his mind because he's a freaking genius. That is him giving insights there in a second without any notes. The metric there, that relative metric there, is very, very true. And you can track that. SQM research, that's the data metric that you want to look. That's the tool that you want to use, or DSR type data, which is what a lot of people use, a lot of the property coaches use. There's a whole bunch of data tools out there that are very, very similar to this, but they're all tracking demand and supply. SQM research is my favorite because it shows you a wonderful chart over the last 15, 20 years of how an area's inventory levels are and whether more homes are for sale relative to average or whether there's fewer homes for sale relative to average. And what you're kind of looking for is like outliers. Right now, there's a few markets with outliers. There's just no homes for sale versus what typically is on the market, or it's a third of what's typically on the market. And it'd be like, okay, look, there's no supply or existing supply there. Pretty good signal for short-term price boom when there's no homes for sale. That's pretty much the summary of it. You can use stock on market as a percentage of total market as well. I think that's SOM percentages. That's a data metric to use, or you can just use stock on market, whatever you want to use, but it's essentially measuring the same underlying thing.
Yeah. So I think that covers that one. So let's assume you found a place where the inventory levels are lower than kind of like the long run average. So that's a bit of a tick.
Yep.
Then you can look at days on market.
Yep.
So,
I want to go further than that.
Yeah.
Not just average levels. You kind of want to, if you want short-term boom, like I'm using the word boom here, I'm being very conscious about that word. An area that's going to go 10% plus this year can't be, hey, average is there's 100 homes for sale at any point in one time, and now there's 85. You're looking for 30. You're looking for, hey, there's no homes for sale here. Well, typically there's a lot. So you're looking for outliers, pretty much. Australia's a big country. There's specific locations going through outlier moments at a particular point in time, almost every time.
Yep.
So this what's going to boom works for you, and look for an outlier versus itself, not just its average. Let's go a bit further than that when you want that huge sort of boom.
The best results. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Like the best results come from the biggest variances, basically.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So if you've passed that kind of metric, or it's good enough that you're still interested, then like next thing, days on market. Like how quickly are homes being sold? Again, if days on market is super, super low, basically everything that gets listed is being snapped up, which could be a factor of low inventory levels. Again, another big tick.
Yeah, go look at Perth. Have you? So in our research during this podcast, one thing that I look at, I don't have any exposure in Perth. I've known it's going to do well. We've talked about it for length. We've had people buying there for 2 years, 3 years. Some of our savviest clients. We've known it's going to do well. We talk about it all the time. Just haven't been in the market for that sort of product or for that.
When did I do all my early adopter research on Perth? That was like 7 years ago. I was a bit too early.
I think it was more recent than that. It was after your Melbourne stuff. So it would have been about 2020, 2019. Yeah, early adopter. You did the early adopter stuff on Perth. Yeah, it would have been a year or two too early. But it was all early.
But the fundamentals were kind of there for that, long run or medium term growth, basically. Yeah.
The reason why I mentioned Perth, though, and these days on market, go on realestate.com, type in a Perth suburb, and start scrolling. All you'll see is under offer. I literally thought it was a mistake. I'm like, something's wrong with this website. How could everything be under offer? Why spend money on marketing if it's going to go under offer in 3 minutes? So,
and we speak to a lot of customers buying in Perth. I often hear biggest issue is agents don't call me back. Yep. I ring up and inquire about a property, I never hear back.
Yep, that's a soft one, actually.
Which isn't the actual days on market measure, but it's like a similar vibe.
Yeah, I know that about Sydney, actually. That's very true in Sydney. When it's about to go boom, agents become very different mentally to work with versus when things are a bit slower. You can definitely tell there. But that's qualitative anecdotes. Pids up in the data, days on market. Track it, see how it's going. Is it going down? Good. Yeah, is it low and going down?
Better.
Good. Yep. Yeah, that's kind of what you're looking for. The average sales campaign, 42 days, 28 days, at least in New South Wales. You can just look at days on market in that particular area and what normal is and see how that's tracking. That tells you an area is either going in the middle of its boom or is about to go boom.
Yeah, exactly. So that's another one. So you've ideally passed inventory levels. You go, yep, there seems to be historically pretty low stock here. Everything that's listed is sold faster than usual.
Yep.
Again, another tick. So next one, vendor discounting, which is essentially just trying to get a gauge on how much the final sale price is below asking.
Yep.
Again, fairly similar trend here that if there's low stock and things are selling super quickly, then you would expect things are going closer to asking than heavily discounted.
Yeah. So in all of this, I want to add in, you want to be looking for trending directions down. If you look at Perth, for example, now it's going to shoot the lights out. It's going to show days on market really, really low, average vendor discounting very, very low. I haven't even looked at the data, but I'm pretty sure it's going to say that. It's going to show you that that's what's happening. But it's in the middle, or it's very much past the early adopter boom phase. It's risen 30% in 12 months, something like that. Plus, so that itself isn't what you're specifically looking for, because then you're going to just see boom markets, but you want to see the direction of trend going down rather than it being at its low point with these data metrics. You don't want days on market to be at its lowest point that it's ever been.
It's in the middle of the boom, Yeah,
you kind of want to see it trending in that direction and vendor discounting trending in that direction. This is what we meant by it's predictable. There's certainty to it. You can see there's a lot of demand. You can just track the data. You don't need to bother going to those areas and walking to open homes. You can just see it in the data itself rather than look any further. Just track these key metrics and you'll see inventory levels going down, the number of homes for sale going down, the days on market are going down, and vendors need to discount less. This all shows you that demand is strong at the moment, and you want to track trend. If that trend is improving, then you're finding an early boom phase market.
Yeah, and that kind of flows on, again, from the previous podcast. So you might have identified an area or some suburbs that, have good long-term prospects over the next few years. And then this is the data that you can track to be like, all right, when is this going to kick off? And when you start seeing the downward trajectory or the positive trajectory, I guess, if you're a property investor on these metrics, like that's an indication that the price rise is like coming fast, as opposed to when they just sit flat, you're probably still in that pre-boom phase.
These three would cover it. If you want the strongest indicators of what's about to go boom, these three are the strongest indicators.
I like the fourth one too, but
let's add more to it, because these three, you're going to find so many markets that here, and it's going to muddle up what's in the middle of a boom and what's in early boom phase. So you need to add more depth to it. We need to go further. So let's go further. You need to be tracking the rental market. Housing demand is what you're looking for. Housing demand feeds through often into the rental market first. More people need homes, they go to the rental queues to begin with. And then that flows through to the price market. That quite often is the natural order of events. So you need to be looking at the rental market. Even if you don't plan on renting a home in that area, if you're a property investor, you just need to track how the rental growth is going to be. You often want to find areas that are a certain rent today, but are going to be a different rent altogether inside 12, 24 months, because that rent growth that you get is great for your yield as well. You're buying future yield increases, makes it great for your holding portfolio, but you're also buying lower values because that asset is going to derive more income very, very quickly. So you want to be buying in areas that it's going to show rental pressure that isn't quite there yet. So vacancy rates is obviously the best metric for that.
Rental price growth.
You want vacancy rates to be coming down. You want the number of homes available to rent to be tracking down. Basically, you want to see the same thing in the rental market that we just talked about. Inventory of homes available tracking down. You want to see days on market. I don't even know if that's measured, but you want to be seeing the number of days it takes to rent a home coming down. You want to see discounting of rents, whether this is measured or not, coming down. You want to be doing what you do for the buy market to the rent market because you want rent growth. Rent growth is going to be your secret sauce. That's a little secret ingredient that gives you price growth and is a little bit of an early adopter indicator, an early boom cycle phase where an area is about to get a 10, 20% rental appreciation, and you're buying at today's prices. You're going to see that price boom happen pretty quickly if that's happening to your area.
Yeah, I like these ones because I think as a property investor, you get a bit of a double win out of this. So one, it kind of confirms or helps support your analysis that the price growth, the capital price growth is there. But secondly, it's going to make your life easier. You're going to be able to rent this thing out relatively quickly, and your yield is probably going to be looking pretty healthy in the space of a couple of years if there's some good rental uplift. Because I'm assuming you're not buying an owner-occupier property. So one, it's positive for your capital growth, but it's going to make your life easier and your cash flow better too.
So these metrics put together give you the strongest indicators of what is going to do well very, very soon. Let's add to it. You want to also track supply data of that location. This is where Perth is just wow, where it's just like, wow, this government is really stuffed up.
Yeah.
I've said this every time I look at it, being like, wow, you have so many people coming in, you have your highest population growth rates, and you also have your lowest construction.
Yeah.
What on earth were you thinking? Like, from a policy perspective, you deserve a 0 on your performance
Planning.
here, on
Yep.
your planning and performance, something entirely you should have been able to do better here. It's partly your job. But for property investors, being like, wow, government that's really stuffed up housing supply, thank you very much. Like that means you're going to do really, really well. So you want to track starts and approval rates in the areas that you're looking at. That is super useful information. Just because demand's really strong and rising, you also want to see that supply is going to be weak. So that's kind of what you're looking for. And it does add another layer of, wow, like supply imbalance on top of that demand increase. Yes, you have two things working for you. Demand up, supply down. Woohoo.
Yep, that's the magic combination. So let's talk through the ripple effect, because I like this one as well, partly because it helps if there's a particular area that is already a little bit maybe further along the boom phase than you ideally want to jump in. It's a useful thing to think about in terms of, okay, well, if this boom is happening here, what does that mean for the surrounding suburbs and areas? And are they going to see some like price growth as people effectively like move to these cheaper areas that might be a street, a suburb, whatever it may be away. And those properties that haven't quite boomed yet all of a sudden become relatively much more attractive, and the demand kind of goes from being in a very localized pocket to spreading a bit more broadly.
Yep. So CoreLogic mapping the market gives you great intel for this. You can see by location, by geographic locations, split by suburbs, I think, that shows you exactly how each area is going through its price growth and its rent growth. And then you can give you a little heat map and see what other areas are doing well or less well that are around that particular area that's done very well. And what you can kind of assume is people will get priced out. So if one area right next to each other, neighboring suburbs, for example, has gone up 50%, but the other has gone up 20%, you can start imagining that people who went and bought in that 50% plus area are now being priced out and will move down one market, and that area will then go see growth. The ripple effect of that price growth starts feeding through. Generally from more expensive markets to cheaper markets, that's generally what you see, and that's how that works. So you can use CoreLogic mapping the market for all this vendor discounting, inventory, vacancy rates, price growth, supply measures. It's a combination of SQM research, demand to supply ratio data, which you can get on a number of different data websites. Supply measures, you can start using ABS construction data there. You can get population data from the ABS as well. That is the combination of where you're going to get this data, CoreLogic mapping the market, and DSR data, demand supply data will give you all this information. It can give you scorecards as well, which makes it a little bit easy. And then you can drive deeper into the data because it'll just give you a scorecard. This area is performing 99, for example, while doing really, really well. That's probably a signal to, give you a data insight. There's tools out there that basically do all this work for you.
Yeah.
Sure. So one thing I want to touch on with this ripple effect is the nature of how it works. I've tracked Sydney for a long period of time, and the ripple effect works differently at different points in time. Sometimes an investor market will boom first. We saw this in 2015. 2014, 2015, we saw the western suburbs of Sydney go boom, boom, boom first because investor credit became exceptionally easy. Investors were just being printed loans, and you could see that in housing finance data that the percentage of loans to investors was shooting on up. And you could see that today. The percentage of loans to investors in Perth is shooting up. So that is clear. Yeah, there's a lot of strong owner-occupier reasons, but also there's an investor-led sort of boom that's occurring there. So you're going to find it may work. The ripple might work slightly differently. You might find cheaper areas then go into more expensive areas when investors lead the way. But when owner-occupiers lead the way, you're going to see it the other way around, more expensive areas, and then those areas get priced down to cheaper areas. So you want to understand the context of how is an area growing and why is the area growing. And typically you want to follow that owner-occupier type stuff. And Perth is definitely that. Don't quote me if you think that I'm saying it's an investor-led boom. It isn't. Investors are chasing the owner-occupier data there. So you will see that ripple effect occur both ways. But you want to apply some context because it's not always rich areas grow first, then poor areas. It can often work the other way around when it's investors driving it, because investors often want higher yields and are chasing those cheaper areas first. Yeah, that pretty much sums up how to find these areas. And Kurt, do you want to reveal what are all our investors buying? How many times have you had this conversation with clients, and how many contracts have we seen in this particular area in the last 6 to 12 months?
I don't know, like last 6 to 12 days maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
So,
wow. Kurt looks, for those that pay attention, Kurt deep dives into all of our client work and our contracts. And, we are probably handling 30, 40 loan applications a month. So he sees and speaks to a whole lot of Australians at the moment. So is a ball of wisdom as to what people are doing. And he's just said, what area?
Yeah, so other than Perth, this is the majority
buying?
of my conversations is people buying and looking in Townsville. That's the...
Where's Townsville? It's Jonathan Thurston.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
This is my knowledge of Townsville. I've never been there. Have you been there?
No, actually.
You're a Queenslander though.
Yeah, I have.
Up really far, right?
Yeah. It's quite far north. So no, I've never been up that far. But yep, it is the place of the moment. Pretty much. And I think, when you're looking at those DSR ratios, which a lot of our customers are looking at, a lot of our clients are looking at when they're doing their research, like it's coming out, near the top of the pile, which is why it's attracting so much attention. But let's use Townsville as a little bit of a live example to kind of play out some of these factors that we've just run through with some real data and a real place so people can get a little bit of a feel for it.
Yep, sure. So we got the vacancy rate, according to SQM Research, is around 1.6%, while pre-COVID it was 4%, and then a few years before that it was 6%.
Yeah.
So vacancy rates are at a quarter of where it usually is at, and I looked at the SQM data and it showed the lowest point I could find all the way to 2005. The lowest point on that chart was pretty much now.
Yeah.
And
that's key. It's the change. So you're looking at vacancy rates that are kind of at like 20-year lows. And, they've fallen significantly from only a few years ago. So, again, if there was a market that had like an average of 1.6% vacancies and that was just what it rolled at, then it's nowhere near it's not the same, basically.
Yep. We've got inventory at half the pre-COVID levels on market too. So vacancy rates, so there's no homes available to rent and there's no homes available to buy. Tick, tick.
Yeah, exactly.
Rent listings are the same.
Yep.
So that's a really good summary of what you're looking for. Asking rents up 20% in a few years, decent, showcasing there. Asking prices up a bit, a fair bit, 15, 20%. So probably early phase of that boom, but the affordability ratios of Townsville, income versus median prices, pretty strong. So there's room to run, if that makes sense.
Yep.
20% over a couple of years isn't that, is good, but it's not like, it's had its full boom.
Yeah,
there's
nothing
there.
left. Yeah,
there's a lot of potential there.
So we've got improving employment markets over time as well.
Yep.
So
haven't dug too well. I haven't dug all that much into this. But yeah, the employment market there seems to be doing better than what it typically does. And housing supply, I haven't ran through this specifically, but housing supply there, I would assume, given our clientele who are all buying there, have done this research.
Yeah,
and that's probably a bit weak.
And again, state government investment as well. Again, I haven't actually gone to the source myself for this, but a lot of the people I speak to, apparently there's big plans for the hospital there.
Love it.
And
there it is.
Yeah. So there's
the magic.
There's big or at least supposed big investment that the state government is putting into particular employment, particular things that drive employment. Hospitals. State infrastructure, basically. So that, again, is, doesn't drive the whole thing, but it's another tick that you can go, okay, that's pushing up incomes and population.
Oh, I like this. Incomes up, population up, rental vacancies low. This is a hot take, Curtis. People, Townsville's about to go boom. Anyone who listens to this, we're gonna.
Well, to go the soft and to go with the soft metric as well. Go find a listing in Townsville and ring the agent and see how quickly they call you back.
Maybe we should try that. Do a live call.
It will, based on what our customers and clients are telling us.
Yep.
You will not be getting a call back very quickly.
Yeah. That's very, very interesting. So yeah, there's a little bit of it actually playing out. We have used the suburb and tracked some of its data, albeit softly, without spending too much time on it. We're seeing it. Perks of our job. I did start there saying that we have 10 years of experience. We incorporated confidence finance 10 years ago to the month, Curtis. Just did a social media post about 10 years of experience, over $1 billion in applications lodged, working with property investors all across the country. Every single big buyer's agent we have worked with. All the big names. I'm pretty sure some of our clients have worked with. Just seen so many contracts now that's there. They all follow each other, really. Property experts, courses, people, whether they're using buyer's agents or not. This is the frameworks that they're using to go and do it. I am simply trying to make it as accessible and free as possible for you, the audience, to go and listen, learn, and pick up something if you wanted to. So you can hold your people to account, you can do it yourself, or you can go invest further to get that additional knowledge you need to take the steps that you need to do to go and make something happen. One last thing I want to add to this entire narrative is to remember that markets move in cycles, and broadly, markets generally catch up with each other over time. So if an area hasn't done well for an extended period of time, rather than view that as the past says the future's going to suck, don't view it so much in that way. View it in a way that the past says there's potential in the future because the past hasn't been that great. Maybe there's a catch up that's going to occur because that market has more room to grow because it hasn't grown that much at all. So that's one last little anecdote to leave you with and bear in mind. Let's wrap it up then. Kurt, pleasure.